And the next round of nuclear talks between U.S. and Iran is expected on Thursday. The negotiators will meet in Geneva to discuss a detailed Iranian proposal for a nuclear deal. Experts say this may be the last chance for a diplomatic solution. Iran's foreign minister and lead negotiator Abbas Araghchi has said that he is drafting the proposal and it will be delivered to the American side once the political leadership in Tehran approves of it. According to Axios, the Trump administration expects to receive the proposal by Tuesday. But even as he awaited the proposal, Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has issued a warning. He claims that Iran could be about a week away from producing industrial-grade bomb-making material, calling the situation very dangerous. Witkoff underlined Washington's red lines on zero enrichment and handing off stockpiled material. Witkoff raised the issue of uranium enrichment at a time when Iran has indicated it is prepared to make concessions on its nuclear program in return for the lifting of sanctions and recognition of its right to enrich uranium. Reports citing officials claim that Tehran would seriously consider a combination of concessions. It included sending half of its most highly enriched uranium abroad, diluting the rest, and taking part in creating a visual enrichment consortium. And this means U.S. will have to agree to a token enrichment. Witkoff and Kushner have told Araghchi that U.S. is willing to consider such a proposal. Such an arrangement would mean that both the sides could claim a win, with President Trump taking credit for stopping Iran from getting a bomb. Well, Witkoff has also admitted Trump is wondering why Iran has not folded under significant U.S. pressure and naval presence. Hear this out.
I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's almost because he understands he's got plenty of alternatives. But it's curious. He's curious as to why they haven't, I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated. Why under this sort of pressure with the amount of sea power, naval power that we have over there, why they haven't come to us and said, we profess that we don't want a weapon, so here's what we're prepared to do. And yet it's hard to sort of get them to that place.
In recent weeks, the U.S. has been building up its military presence in Iran and in the wider region. World's largest warship, USS Gerald R. Ford, is heading towards the region, while USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier is already deployed, along with destroyers, combat ships, and fighter jets. Reports say at least 108 air tankers are in or heading to the CENTCOM theater. But Trump's allies in the region are still calling for caution. Iran has repeatedly signaled that U.S. bases and ships in the region are legitimate targets. Regional allies have warned U.S. that Iran still possesses enough firepower to cause serious damage. Despite the losses suffered during June's 12-day war last year, Iran has been rebuilding its missile program. Another report says that Iran has agreed on a secret $500 million arms deal with Russia to acquire thousands of advanced shoulder-fired missiles. The Financial Times, citing leaked Russian documents and sources, reported that the agreement, signed in Moscow in December, commits Russia to deliver 500-man portable Verba launch units and 2,500 9M336 missiles over 3 years. Now, another threat is Iran's Ring of Fire, a strategic doctrine aimed at encircling Israel with a network of armed proxy groups, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen, and Iraqi Shia militias, to force a multi-front war. And well, to discuss more, we're now being joined by Dr. Sayed Emania, assistant professor at Tehran Polytechnic, founder and former director of the governance and policy think tank. He's joining us live from Tehran. And we're also being joined by James J. Marlowe, foreign and defense analyst, live from London. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Marlowe, I'll come to you first. We see all this lineup around Iran, and Trump has earlier indicated limited attacks, and we don't see any action yet. But is Trump trying to get victory without war here? And is this the last chance for diplomacy?
I don't think there's anyone who can predict exactly what Donald Trump is thinking or what he's planning to do, because he has a poker face. He plays poker all the time. He says one thing one day, he says the complete opposite the next day, and everyone is saying this. His friends are saying this, his allies are saying this, those who are very close with him are saying this. They have given up in trying to work out what Donald Trump's plan is. I suspect it's something along the lines of, if you remember many years ago, Donald Trump was always very against the Iraqi invasion, the American invasion of Iraq in 2003, when Saddam Hussein was playing exactly the same games. Of course, he didn't have nuclear weapons. He had weapons of mass destruction, meaning mustard gas and nerve gas, etc. And he'd used those against his own people many, many times. But he didn't have nuclear weapons. This is very different when it comes to Iran. But at the time, Donald Trump said he was completely opposed to that. And many people raised the question, exactly as Steve Witkoff raised yesterday, and you brought it up in that very well put together comprehensive report for about 3 or 4 minutes just before. And he raised the question, which I was very surprised about, because the Americans, at least from Witkoff's point of view, can't understand why Iran are not backing down once they see this massive, great big United States armada in the region. And of course, the USS Gerald Ford is on its way up there as well. You've got submarines, you've got all these fighters, you've got more than 150 fighter jets. You've also got the Israelis who are liaising with the Americans as well. So why is not Iran capitulating? And the reason is because that they want to be the ones standing up to America. They're part of that axis that opposes America. For 20 years plus, they've been saying death to America. In fact, actually 47 years. And they want to make a stand against Iran. And I suspect that Donald Trump is concerned that if we do what we do, meaning the Americans, against Iraq and against Libya, that the country could come into some type of complete and utter chaos. Now, in this particular case, you do have a leader standing by, potentially, the son of the Shah, who can move from America to Iran. He has said that he will call elections within the first 12 months. But the IR, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, is very, very strong on the ground. And it's only going to happen, a regime change is only going to happen if it's done from the people. So that means that some from the Iranian Revolutionary Guards are going to have to move over to the other side and go against this regime. And at this time, I don't see any signs of that happening.
All right, I'll take your point and I'll come to that, but I'll also take your point and go to Dr. Imamia. So how do you assess when a reaction like this comes from a U.S. West Asia envoy, Steve Witkoff? He's asking, why hasn't Iran capitulated yet? How is Iran looking at this comment?
Actually, I would like to say that still we are thinking that the Trump's camp has a lot of controversies within. The America First part of the Trump camps, they are still very much preventing, and they are trying to push Trump back from any kind of the military intervention in the region. At the same time, Trump's administration has already been hijacked once in June last year when he joined the unprovoked strike against Iran by Israelis. So the Israeli lobby and some of the part of the Trump's administration that they are very much affected or influenced by Israeli lobby, they are very much pushing for a kind of the strike against Iran. But at the same time, there is a lot of a kind of the political struggle within and also calculation struggle within. That's they are not pretty sure that it would be any possible scenario for a quick and sharp operation. And Iran has been clear in that regard that it would be an existential threat to Iran. So it would be a regional war inevitably. So this is a problem of also, or a challenge of the calculation of what would happen after any strike that could happen. With regards to the Iranians, they are also thinking of this situation, as I said, as a very existential national threat issue, so national security issue. So they are going to be very much well prepared with regards to retaliating any kind of the attacks with a very regional scale of the retaliation. So that's a challenge. I think the political challenge and calculation challenge is going on inside the Trump's camp. And from the Iranian side, I think it's very rational kind of the decision making is happening now on the ground.
All right, I'll take your point, Dr. Imamia, and Mr. Marlowe. So yes, of course, as mentioned by Dr. Imamia, Iran has indicated it is prepared to make concessions on its nuclear program and talks with the U.S. in return for lifting sanctions and recognition of its right to enrich uranium. So what is making Steve Witkoff say he's also mentioning that he's saying that he doesn't want to use the word frustrated, but you can see that there is some kind of frustration that is coming out from Steve Witkoff. Then where is this frustration coming from when you have statements from Iran where they are prepared to make concessions?
Well, that's what Iran says. I mean, I don't know, as I said earlier on, that why Steve Witkoff made those suggestions. I don't think that that's the same view with inside the American administration, because the Americans have known for many, many years that over the years, Iran plays a lot of games. They say they're not making nuclear weapons, and yet they enrich uranium to such a high degree it could only be used for nuclear weapons. They say that they're a peaceful nation, and yet they've spent billions, money that should have gone to the people, but billions for the International Ballistic Missiles Program, which obviously can reach anywhere in the Middle East. But not just Israel and those countries that are associated with Israel, like the UAE and Bahrain, and maybe even Saudi Arabia, has become very moderate over the last few years, but also Europe. It can hit Paris, it can hit London, it can hit Hamburg and other places as well. So this is a big concern. And I have to tell you, from a European point of view, and as you know that I'm in London right now, there's very little coverage of the US versus Iran buildup at this point, which is very surprising, because in Israel, they've been talking about it for the last 2 or 3 weeks. People in Israel trying to work out their plans. Are they going ahead with their event next week or in the next few days? Are people flying out to Israel? If they do fly out to Israel, are they going to get stuck out in Israel if the Americans decide to make a strike on Iran? And if the Americans do decide to make a strike in Iran, it's just literally taking out military bases. It may also take out some of the IRGC leaders, but it's not purposely looking for a regime change, because the only way that you can do that is to have soldiers on the ground literally fighting those who are part of the regime. So this could still roll on for another 2 or 3 years, or it can be very decisive, and the people, and remember there are estimates that anywhere between 30 to more than 50,000 civilians who have been demonstrating are dead right now, and yet the people are still coming out, and you can see the demonstrations across Europe of those people who are against the regime. I mean, literally in some cases, tens of thousands, more than 100,000 people, and I've been in touch with many of them as well. They want to see a regime change. The question is, how do you go about it?
Right. Okay, I'll take your point and go to Dr. Imamia now. So, of course, we know that there has been protests there. So, considering the fact, when we see Araghchi saying that we have a plan and we're going to wait for the Khamenei or the leaders in Iran to approve of it, do you think that the regime there in Iran would agree to such a concession that Iran says that it wants to, these concessions that they're talking about, would they want to do that?
First of all, as an analyst and academic, I'm not representing anyone. Just I'm saying about my analysis of the situation. I would like to, with due respect, to disagree with you with some part of the argument of your guest. First of all, I think that it's very clear that Iranian decision making here now is very much rational rather than being ideologically driven. So they are thinking of the national security in the region, that for everyone in the region. Just I used to be in Doha last week, and I had a lot of discussion with our colleagues across the Arab countries in the Persian Gulf. Everyone now thinking of the Israel as the source of insecurity in the region. The Israelis' expansionism and a kind of the looking for political and geopolitical and military hegemony over the whole region. And a very, very, very challenging and very concerning is the idea of the greater Israel that has been mentioned. Just if you have heard that from the interview was leaked by the even U.S. ambassador in Israel, is that they are looking for taking a very large proportion of the territories of the countries in the region. So with such a region, living in such a region, with an entity like Israeli Zionist regime that is looking for occupying, outspokenly occupying the part of the large proportion of the parts of the other countries in the region, it would be a very, very, very concerning threat for everyone. And so having such kind of the military capability is very much a part of the very essential part of the national security strategy. So Iran has been prepared to has a kind of a concession to make sure everyone that Iran is not going to weaponize nuclear program. So it has been a consistent claim. And if you remember, US was the one that withdrew from the JCPOA in 2018. So Iran was agreed to be a very minimum level of the enrichment at the time. But the problem started by the US withdrawal in 2018. So Iran is happy to back to that kind of the similar kind of the concession or agreement if possible.
Well, that's an interesting, because we'll have to figure out if that would be it would be similar to the Obama regime. But of course, little time, lots to discuss. But thank you so much to both of you for joining on the broadcast. Of course, we'll have to wait till Thursday to see what comes out of this meeting. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.